Tetris isn't just a game. It's a psychological event wrapped in falling blocks. A game born in the Cold War, made on a Soviet computer, that somehow became the most addictive puzzle on Earth. But here's the weird part. Tetris isn't just fun. It rewires your brain, haunts your dreams, and literally changes the way you see the world. This is the bizarre psychology behind Tetris, and why you can't stop playing it even when it's over. Let's rewind to the Soviet Union 1984, a place where blue jeans were contraband, and the only thing harder to find than freedom was a decent snack. Enter Alexei Pajitnov, a software engineer working at the computing center of the Soviet Academy of Sciences, which sounds like a place where they would build nuclear codes. But Pajitnov, he wanted to make something fun. One day, he finds his old tabletop puzzle game called Pentaminos, where you fit geometric shapes together in a box. He stares at it, thinks, what if this had 4 blocks instead of 5? And there was born Tetraminos. 4 block pieces, 7 shapes, infinite chaos. He programs it on an Electronica 60, a Soviet computer with no graphics card, so the blocks, just text characters. They looked like rectangles made out of brackets, and it still slapped. Imagine creating the most iconic puzzle game of all time, using a computer that couldn't even display a square. When Pajitnov and his friend showed it around the lab, everyone immediately got hooked. Scientists were staying late, not for the research, but to beat their high scores. It spread like digital crack across every desk in the building. It was so addictive, Soviet officials started noticing people weren't doing their jobs anymore. They were just playing blocks. Welcome to Tetris, the only video game in history to start as a productivity crisis under communism. From that point, Tetris began to leak out from lab to lab, country to country, smuggled by floppy disk. And it wouldn't be long before the West got its hands on it and turned it into a capitalist sensation. So picture this. You finish a long Tetris session, you turn off the console, shut your eyes, and suddenly, the blocks are still there, falling into your brain like a silent, invisible screensaver. Congratulations, you've just encountered the Tetris Effect. This is a real phenomenon, and it's been documented by actual psychologists, not just weird YouTube guys. In the year 2000, researchers coined the term after subjects who played Tetris obsessively reported seeing blocks in their dreams, on car windows, on buildings. Sometimes, even when they closed their eyes. One study even scanned players' brains using MRI machines and found something wild. When you play Tetris, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree on Adderall. Your visual cortex processes the shapes. Your motor cortex plans your rotations. Your nucleus accumbens, the pleasure center, keeps you playing because it feels good to clear lines. And it's not just a game, it's a neural feedback loop. But here's the truly sinister part. Tetris doesn't reward your consistency. The pieces drop randomly. The long-awaited straight block might show up, or not. It's like a slot machine made by a math teacher. The intermittent reinforcement, that unpredictable reward pattern, is literally what makes gambling addictive. Tetris, it runs on that exact same psychological fuel. Your brain keeps playing because it believes maybe the next move will fix everything. And when you finally clear 4 lines at once, that satisfying Tetris, it feels like a religious experience. All of this creates a mental state called cognitive entrenchment. Your brain starts automating problem solving. You begin seeing patterns where none exist. You crave symmetry, order, closure. This is how a game with no story, no characters, and no endgame manages to hijack your mind. And here's the catch. Tetris isn't a game that you beat. It's a game that beats you slowly. You're not playing for the ending. You're playing for the feeling, that hypnotic zone where nothing else matters, where it's just you, the falling shapes, and the weird Russian music playing in your skull. That state is called flow. A psychologist, whose name I will never be able to pronounce, described flow as the moment where your skill perfectly matches the challenge. You're not stressed, you're not bored, you're locked in. Your brain shifts into this surreal gear where time disappears. You forget to blink, you forget to eat, and suddenly, you've been playing for 2 hours and you swear you could still do better. Tetris nails this better than almost any game on Earth. And why? Because its design is pure, stripped down, cold and beautiful in its minimalism. It's simple, 7 shapes, infinite combinations, but it's also punishing. Make one mistake and it follows you forever. And that is the Tetris death spiral. One bad placement, you overcompensate. You stack too high, the music speeds up, your palms get sweaty, and that straight block, yeah, it's not coming. And suddenly you realize you've ruined everything, all because you rotated a Z piece the wrong way. This tension, this slow creeping pressure, is what makes Tetris more than just a game. It's a test of patience, precision, pattern recognition, and above all, self-control. You don't win Tetris, you survive it. You've been stacking carefully for minutes. The gap is there, the setup is perfect. You just need one piece, the long one, the straight piece. But it's not coming, and that's when panic starts. Tetris messes with you not just through gameplay, but through psychology. That moment where you're waiting, praying, stalling, that's called anticipatory anxiety. Your brain starts simulating worst-case scenarios. What if it never shows up? Again, your hands get sweaty, you hesitate, you start making bad placements. The straight piece becomes a metaphor. It's the thing you need in life, but can't control. A job, a breakup, closure, the perfect last piece. And it's always just a little too late. This isn't just gameplay tension, it's behavioral science. Tetris exploits something called variable ratio reinforcement, where rewards come at an unpredictable time, not on a set schedule. That's the exact same trick used in slot machines. The randomness activates your dopamine system, not when you win, but when you almost win. You get stuck in the loop. One more game, one more run. Maybe this time the straight piece shows up when I need it. Tetris trains your brain to expect heartbreak, and to love it anyway. And by now you're probably thinking, Tetris sounds like a psychological weapon. But what if I told you it can also be used for good? Imagine being haunted by vivid, involuntary flashbacks. Your brain replays traumatic moments like a broken record. Trauma memories undergo a process called consolidation, where they are stored solidly in our brain, up to 6 hours after the event. But what if we could interrupt that process, stop flashbacks from forming in the first place? In 2009, psychologists at Oxford University tested a surprising idea. Could the classic computer game Tetris do the trick? Here's how the study worked. Healthy volunteers watched a short, distressing film, The Trauma Film Paradigm. 30 minutes later, half of the participants played Tetris for 10 minutes. The others sat quietly. Over the next week, researchers tracked how often each person experienced flashbacks. The result? The group that played Tetris reported significantly fewer flashbacks over the week compared to the no-task group. Yet both groups retained the same ability to consciously remember what they had watched. And here's the science behind it. Our working memory has limited capacity, especially for visual spatial information like images and shapes. Trauma flashbacks are also sensory and image-based. Playing Tetris right after trauma fills up the visual spatial channel, blocking the brain from consolidating those traumatic snapshots. This was early, influential work, a proof of concept. The Oxford team emphasized it was preliminary and said more research was crucial, especially to test whether Tetris could work as a clinical intervention in real-world trauma scenarios. Still, the idea of a cognitive vaccine, a simple, non-invasive game to prevent flashbacks, is exciting. What would have once sounded like science fiction might one day become part of a mental health first aid. So in short, Tetris hijacks the part of your brain that stores visual memories. Instead of encoding trauma, your brain's busy trying to rotate a stupid S-piece into place. That's right, Tetris blocks trauma. Not only has it been explored as a therapy tool for PTSD, it's also been explored for addiction, even food cravings. The game's power isn't just in its gameplay, it's in how it captures your attention fully. It demands focus, it numbs chaos, it gives your brain a puzzle to solve when everything else feels unsolvable. So yeah, a game made in Soviet Russia may just be one of the most effective mental health tools of the 21st century. Tetris has no lore, no protagonist, no ending. It doesn't ask you to save the world, or make choices, or unlock achievements. It doesn't care who you are. It hands you a puzzle, one block at a time, and asks a single question. Can you keep up? Tetris isn't about winning, it's about enduring. Mistakes stack, panic sets in, everything spirals fast, and then suddenly, somehow, the perfect piece shows up, and for one brief, glorious second, everything fits. That's the magic of Tetris. The beauty isn't in the high score. The beauty is in the moment, the one where the chaos of falling blocks becomes order, where your brain goes quiet, where the world disappears, just long enough for everything to click. That's why it stays with you, not because it's fun, but because it feels like control in a world that's constantly falling apart. Tetris is the illusion that if you move fast enough, think fast enough, maybe you can hold it all together. In Tetris, you never really win. You just run out of space. But when that screen goes blank and the blocks stop falling, you don't feel frustrated. You just start over.